Netflix's Wednesday was built on the back of two iconic 90s Addams Family movies, but it's a lot more than just a rehash of those classic comedies. Here's all the ways the streaming hit changes course. Wednesday, the new creepy and kooky Netflix series, takes a closer and arguably overdue look at Wednesday Addams, a character who has long been a fan favorite. In the Netflix series, Wednesday goes from being merely a supporting character to the main protagonist. Although plenty of people are eager to see what Netflix's Wednesday has in store, it has a lot to live up to. The Barry Sonnenfeld films of the early 90s were a big part of many millennial childhoods, so fans of the Addams Family franchise are hoping for something new and compelling, while also maintaining the spirit and fun of the originals. Of course, Wednesday is not a carbon copy of the Sonnenfeld movies, but even so, be advised, this is a major spoiler alert, so consider this your final warning. While Christina Ricci did a lot to make Wednesday a memorable character in the 1991 and 1993 Addams Family movies, she was not the sole focus of the films. The plot of the first film, The Addams Family, centered around the supposed return of Gomez's long-lost brother Fester. In the film, a pair of wicked schemers, Abigail Kramer and her son Gordon, plan to con the unsuspecting Addams into believing that Gordon, who bears an uncanny resemblance to the missing Fester, is actually the real deal. Although Wednesday and Pugsley are not the focus of the plot, their characters are central to the final revelation that Gordon is indeed Fester and reuniting the family with their electrifying uncle. The sequel to The Addams Family is set 2 years later with Gomez and Morticia welcoming their newest little monster, a son they whimsically name Pubert. Once again, the unsuspecting Addams hire a scheming nanny who plans to seduce and marry Uncle Fester in order to gain control of the family fortune. When Wednesday becomes suspicious of her motives, Nanny Debbie convinces Morticia and Gomez to send the two older siblings to summer camp. Forced to endure swimming lessons in the pristine lake and moonlit evenings, huddled around a campfire singing endless rounds of Kumbaya, Wednesday finally gets a chance to mope in the spotlight, biding her time until she takes her revenge in epic fashion. It isn't, however, until the new Netflix series Wednesday that the Addams Family's deadpan diva finally gets the full attention she deserves. Played by Jenna Ortega, best known for portraying the role of Harley in the Disney Channel's Stuck in the Middle, Wednesday is no longer the little girl from the movies. Now 15, she has wilted into an angsty gothic teenager who has been expelled from her public high school for taking particularly gruesome revenge on some school bullies. Enrolled in her parents' old alma mater, Nevermore Academy, Wednesday is forced to contend with a bubbly roommate, a suspicious principal, and a murder mystery threatening not only the lives of her fellow students, but her entire family. One notable difference between the Netflix series and the Addams Family movies is that in the Netflix show, we discover that Wednesday has developed psychic powers. Though there is no explicit mention of Wednesday having psychic visions in the Addams Family movies, there were hints she might have some kind of supernatural ability, perhaps sensing that something was amiss even if she couldn't put her finger on precisely what. In the series, we learn Wednesday's visions started just a few months before arriving at Nevermore, and her mother gives her an amulet that also seems to trigger something in her. The visions reveal both the past and the future and center around her ancestor, Goody Addams, as well as the violent attacks of a strange monster that stalks the school grounds.
You are the key.
Wednesday Addams may have a sadistic streak, but she also has a creative side. In the Addams Family movies, Wednesday's hobbies mainly include torturing her brother Pugsley and baby Pubert, and she can get pretty imaginative with it too. It takes an inventive mind to shake things up in a torture chamber after all. Away at boarding school, however, without access to her go-to torture tools from home, Wednesday uses a typewriter as a creative outlet instead. Devoting an hour every day to writing her novel, we see her hard at work at it throughout the series, taking inspiration for characters and plot from her own real-life murder investigation. We learn that Wednesday has actually written 3 novels, all starring a teenage girl detective named Viper de la Muerte, who is smart, perceptive, and chronically misunderstood. It's no accident, perhaps, that her heroine sounds suspiciously like someone we know. Sadly, Wednesday's gratuitously morbid subject matter keeps her work from getting published. Although Wednesday Addams is 15 years old in the Netflix series, it soon becomes apparent that she hasn't had much time for romance. After all, regular relationships are enough of a challenge for someone with her socially awkward disposition. Yet in Wednesday, she finds herself with 2 young men who are both attracted to her and competing for her attention. The first is Xavier Thorpe, a fellow student at Nevermore with both magical and artistic talents, and Tyler Galpin, son of the local sheriff and a normie. At first, Wednesday deduces that the murderous Hyde monster stalking the town and Nevermore is Xavier. However, she later realizes she has made a grave error after sharing a kiss with Tyler that triggers a vision.
Of course, the first boy I kissed would turn out to be a psychotic, serial-killing monster. I guess I have a type.
And speaking of kisses, Wednesday's first kiss in the series happens very differently than in the movie, Addams Family Values. Wednesday's first kiss is a sweet peck through a chain-link fence, while in the series, it is definitely much more passionate. In the movies, Wednesday never seemed to be inclined toward music. Still, she did exhibit a leaning toward the theater, as seen in The Addams Family, when she and Pugsley perform a dramatic Shakespearean scene together at the school talent show. Thanks to some help from Uncle Fester, the Addams siblings managed to leave the audience speechless and drenched in stage blood. In the series, however, Wednesday turns her artistic interests to creative writing and playing the cello, and has become a masterful musician. The show actually treats us to two memorable performances. The first, an instrumental rendition of Paint It Black, which Wednesday plays on the balcony outside her dorm room, as well as a jaunty rendition of Fleetwood Mac's Don't Stop, which she plays as a statue of town founder Joseph Crackstone goes up in flames. Though she may not show emotions in her day-to-day routines, Wednesday's passion clearly comes out as she plays the cello, and it's a change from the original movies that helps give more dimension to her character. For more than 30 years, the Addams family consisted of Gomez, Morticia, Pugsley, Wednesday, Uncle Fester, and Granny. Of course, Thing and Lurch are also like family, but let's stick to immediate blood relations for the moment. In the original movie, The Addams Family, Morticia reveals to her beloved Gomez that they are about to welcome a new addition to the family, and the 1993 sequel, Addams Family Values, begins with Morticia giving birth to baby Pubert. Though the Wednesday series includes iconic Addams Family characters such as Thing, Lurch, Gomez, Morticia, and Fester, Pubert has been left out altogether. It seems that while the show's creators have drawn on a few elements of the Sonnenfeld movies, it was decided to stick with the original family lineup from the New Yorker cartoon. While the Addams Family movies are examples of the classic fish-out-of-water story, compared to the world around them, the Addamses are strange, spooky, and even at times borderline psychotic. It's their attempts to interact with normal people that make for the most hilarious moments in the Sonnenfeld films.
You are too precious for words. Why, I could just eat you alive.
Oh no, Margaret, too young.
However, despite their eccentricities, the Addamses are still mostly human. While the family might be creepy, the original Addams Family films never really took a full plunge into the realm of the supernatural. All of that changes in Wednesday, though. The students of Nevermore Academy are called outcasts, but the school offers a safe space for sirens, werewolves, gorgons, vampires, and the just plain weird to be themselves. There is also a murderous creature known as a Hyde haunting the woods, whose identity is a mystery until Wednesday takes the case. Other paranormal elements, including Wednesday's visions and a connection with her ghostly ancestor Goody Addams, feel organic, even if none of the preceding films went in that direction. The original Addams Family films clearly fall into the comedy genre, with plenty of dark humor accompanying the family's zany antics and hilarious shenanigans. And the tone is generally light. Most of the violence in the movies is either implied or happens off-screen, with even the darkest moments carried out in an almost Looney Tunes-type style. The Wednesday series on Netflix, on the other hand, is not afraid to go all in and does not shy away from displaying a more gruesome and horror-fueled tableau. The murder and mayhem are far from implied, and we get to see some of it up close and personal. The added murder mystery element in Wednesday also allows room for the series to branch out. The deeper her investigation goes, the more danger Wednesday finds herself in as she, her friends, and her family members become targets for the killer. The ghosts, demons, and bloodthirsty creatures are very real, and the lives of everyone at Nevermore hang in the balance. Although the Wednesday series goes deeper into the bond between the two siblings, in the Addams Family movies, brother and sister Pugsley and Wednesday are quite the dynamic duo. Wednesday is the leader of the two, and Pugsley is more than happy to go along with whatever she has planned. Whether he is the victim of her sadistic devices or assisting her with getting rid of their baby brother, Pugsley is her willing sidekick.
It's a tradition. One of us has to go.
Which one?
Well, they only need one boy.
It's rarely apparent why Pugsley is so amenable to Wednesday's methods in the 90s films. Is it purely his mischievous nature, or perhaps an innate sadomasochistic streak? The relationship between them is left ambiguous, so it's difficult to tell whether the two hate or love one another, or if they feel any emotion towards each other at all. Netflix's Wednesday gives a bit more clarity to the relationship between the Addams siblings. First, in the series, it's established that Wednesday is older than Pugsley, and Pugsley is less of a mischief maker and more of a somewhat dim but sensitive soul, a fault Wednesday criticizes him for, calling showing emotion a sign of weakness. It's also made apparent that Pugsley has a great deal of affection for his sister, and that Wednesday is very protective of her little brother.
This is a close practice.
The only person who gets to torture my brother is me.
By the end of the series, though, Wednesday's chilly personality has thawed somewhat, and her experiences have perhaps warmed her just enough to release her ironclad control over her emotions, at least temporarily. Although it seems unlikely that she will ever give up on viewing her life through a darker lens, Wednesday does appear to be opening up a bit to the possibilities offered by her new life at Nevermore Academy. New friends, a new cell phone, and her very first stalker all look like they might be in her future, if only she would take a chance and send her first text. A new chapter also seems to be opening on the Addams Family home front when Wednesday finally decides to confide in her mother that she has violent, dark visions and is afraid because she can't control them. For the first time, Morticia offers her daughter some advice, one seer to another, and a new, stronger bond of trust and respect is forged between mother and daughter, built on a better understanding of their different natures and approaches to life. The show does seem to lay the groundwork for future adventures. Wednesday is growing up, and who knows, it might be possible that even sibling rivalry could be cast aside, and she might one day begin to express a little bit of fondness for Pugsley.
Don't push it.